Well, good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Okay, we're going to try that one more time. I heard a whole bunch of noise before. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
There we go. Okay. Well, thank you all for joining us. My name is Dave Bennett. I'm president of Connections for Business. You are here in our office building. For those who would like to know a little bit more about us, afterwards I think John will walk you all through it, give you a quick idea about who we are. But today we're going to be talking to you all about cloud computing. There's a lot of buzz about it in the industry. There's a lot of articles about it, and frankly there's a lot of disinformation and misinformation. And without any further ado, I'd like to introduce to you someone who's very special to us. You all know him as his alter ego. I'm sorry?
I was waiting, sorry.
I'm sorry, I have no idea what cues are supposed to be happening here. Someone's telling me something. I'm obviously a bit odd. But you all may have seen him in some of these alter egos that he has. We call him internally here our master of disaster. He has quite a few number of sidekicks that you may have met. His little girl Shira, who is Rocco, is her alter ego. John, if you can come on up here and carry on today. Thank you, John.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's great to look out and see so many friendly faces, and you. It is great to see so many people, so many of you that I know, some of you I've just met today. Great for you to come and share this time with me, and I very much value and appreciate you sharing your time with me today so we can dig into something that I'm very passionate about. A couple of just quick housekeeping things. I'm going to end at 10 o'clock, so we are going to finish at 10 o'clock. I'm not trying to rush through anything. I'm typically just hopped up on caffeine. That's my personality. On the advice of my mentor, Steve Breitbart, I did not have a second cup today, but I don't need it. So I'm like a squirrel. I have reserve, like a camel. I store reserves. We've got a restroom back there. We've got one in the lunchroom in the back over there. I am videotaping this for myself and my own professional development. I hope that's okay with everybody. Is that okay? Nobody's problem? No trade secrets here? A couple of promises. I promised you in the invitations material I would not speak geek speak. No bits, bytes, electrons, neurons, morons, none of that. This is all about business and fun history. Couple of things. This is a darn good looking crowd. This is the best looking crowd I've had for a workshop like all week. And a couple other things. It's still summer in Florida, and I grew up in Miami, and so I make you one promise. I ain't wearing a tie. So summer in South Florida, the ties get put away. God bless you, you wore one, Tom. And that's your own thing. I'm glad you all had a chance to network a bit. We have some fabulous people in the room. Great industries are represented here. And I just want to give a quick special shout out. Ellie Dupree from Lighthouse of Broward has an event coming up August 25th, I believe. Right? 25th?
October 25th.
October 25th is what I meant. October 25th. Fabulous event with Tom Sullivan. He's an amazing storyteller and entertainer. If you want to go to that or look in some sponsorship opportunities, see Ellie and Eric from Lighthouse of Broward. Yeah, well, I think it's totally cool. So, without further ado, the reason why I am so passionate about this topic is because I've been a pioneer in cloud computing. We've actually been doing cloud computing longer than they've had the term cloud computing. Andrew, good morning. How are you? Andrew Bloom, Strike Trucks, everyone. That's your big introduction. And you don't get a chair now. Okay. I'm passionate about this topic. We have literally seen companies realize the full potential of the technology and how it's transformed their businesses. In some cases, it's saved their business. In other cases, it's helped them grow. It's been the platform that's allowed them to grow exponentially. In other cases, this solution has allowed companies to survive where their competition has not in things like natural disasters. So, here's what we're going to get into. How did we get here? How does the cloud work? What does it mean for IT? That may or may not be interesting to you. You're in IT, it might be interesting to you. Most important thing is, what does it mean for you? Right? What is it going to mean for you? Now, I promised you, or I hinted in my emails to you all, I said, so let me go to a quick housekeeping. If you want to play the home edition of Cloud Computing and Me, you have this. I don't have a bell. It's going to have one of those annoying hotel bells that goes ding when one of the answers appears. but I think they're pretty obvious. If you want to play along with the home game to remember some of the points, you're encouraged to do that. Later at the end, we've got an evaluation and a cloud readiness assessment. We'll talk about those. But if you want to play along the home game, this is the time to pull out your sheet marked Cloud Computing and Me, and there are pens around. Now, I promised you that the roots of cloud computing went all the way back to, anybody remember?
Sexual revolution.
Close. Close. The 1800s, correct. Now, Bernie remembers the sexual revolution. I don't even think he remembers the 1800s. And we're not so sure. So the story of cloud computing really is the story of the American Industrial Revolution. Eric, this is where you go ding, ding, ding. That's one of the first answers. So, you can go ding, ding, ding.
Ding, ding, ding.
Thank you. All right. So, it's the story of the American Industrial Revolution. If you figure out how I'm going to take you from like Google all the way back to the early 1800s, if you don't think I can do that, you just don't know me. So if you know me, you say, how are you going to get there? And it's really all about energy. This whole thing comes down to energy. Always. We got here through energy. We're using energy. Computing power is energy. Power to do work, right? That's the definition of energy. It's all going to come down to that. So, in order to understand how we got to where we are with cool things like an iPad or a smartphone or a mobile app that band that they produce and put out there, we got to go back. We're going to go all the way back. Come back with it. We're going all the way back to the 1800s. Get it? OTD is going to deliver you back to the 1800s, right? We're going all the way back to about 1819. Who remembers 1819? Jeff from SCG. So, you don't even know what a record is. It's young people remember vinyl. You don't know what tape that means. All right. So, we go all the way back to 1819, and a young Scottish immigrant, get excited about that, Scottish, right?
Oh, Jesus, I've come to America.
What a crowd. What a crowd. We go all the way back to 1819. Young Scottish immigrant named Henry Burden comes to America. And he lands in New York. And he is he's an inventor, young inventor, invents a seed cultivator, some other things, gets people very excited. Moves all the way up to a place in New York. You may have heard of Troy, New York. Anyone heard of Troy, New York? Right? Troy, New York, upstate New York. There, just start digging the Erie Canal. Very exciting time. And he starts a job at the Troy Iron Works. He's kind of a machinist at the Troy Iron Works. Now, remember, in the 1800s, you've got two main modes of transportation. What do you think they are?
Canal.
The canal they're digging, you're right on the money, and I'm going to blow correct here. Horses and trains. Who's still using horses today?
Cops.
Who's still using trains? So, pretty efficient means of transportation today, right? Right. So, horses and trains. Now, horses require two main things. Hay and one other main item they need to keep going.
Water.
Water, sure.
Air.
Horseshoes. They go through horseshoes. Didn't have really much roads there. You're on horseshoes. File that away. Railroads need track, trains, and what holds the tracks together? Spikes. File that away. And I'll take that to cloud computing in a minute. Okay? So, at the time, if you need a tool, if you need a horseshoe, or you need a railroad spike, you've got a whole guild of craftsmen called blacksmiths that produce this. And that's great. These guys are unbelievable. They turn out tremendous high-quality work, or they can turn out junk. But for the most part, it was high-quality, handmade, hand-forged, hammered over a fire work, which is great. Unless you didn't need something that was so fancy and like, dude, I just needed a screwdriver. You know, dude, I just needed some horseshoes. I didn't need a handcrafted. That's how it is, right? So it would take a blacksmith in the early 1800s a day to turn out a set of horseshoes. Now, these may be great horseshoes, but it took a day. And you may go through them in a couple months. So, That's where we're at. Now, Henry Burton up at the Troy Iron Works, he first invents a machine that starts stamping out railroad spikes. Stamping them out. How popular do you think he is with blacksmiths? Now, remember, how long did it take for a blacksmith to produce a set of horseshoes? About
1 day.
a day. About a day. In 1859, Henry Burton invents a machine that cranks out horseshoes at a rate of 1 a second. Again, he wasn't nominated by the Blacksmiths Guild for Entrepreneur of the Year. You could bet that. But at the same time, Erie Canal is coming online right by Troy, New York. He figures out this is going to be transformational. The Troy Iron Works is built on a river. And so Henry sets to building a water wheel to power the Troy Iron Works. Now, I'll give you an idea of how big this water wheel is. It's 60 feet tall in 1859. That's roughly a 6-story building, right? And guess how much it weighs?
60 tons.
60 tons, great guess. Anyone else?
100.
Another great guess, 250 tons. Because if there's one thing that Henry Burton knew how to work with, it was iron, right? It was an ironworks. So he didn't make it out of wood, and he certainly didn't have aluminum. It's 250 tons, and when this thing is set to running and spinning around, it cranks out all of 500 horsepower, which is astronomical in mid-1800s. And it gets transmitted around a factory via pulleys and cables and gears. And so you would have these bands, big wide pulleys, like the inside of a car that goes around, and you've got all these pulleys moving this mechanical energy, not electrical energy, all throughout the factory. That means we're driving these machines at an efficiency rate we never had before with the blacksmiths, right? And this energy is practically free once we've built the wheel, right? That's pretty cool. It's pretty green, right? Pretty cool. But there's one drawback. He's got people working the machines. In other words, they're producing horseshoes, they're producing railroad spikes, and they're producing, that's great. Except for he's got another team that's almost the exact same size. What do you suppose they do? They keep all of this running because it's so many mechanical connections and a 250-ton wheel spinning at full force producing 500 horsepower. If a 250-ton wheel, flywheel, is spinning next to you and is off a little bit, if it pops a bearing, what do you think that happens? This whole thing is going to come either grinding to a halt, fly off the axle, whatever. When these bands start wearing and breaking, we have what's called fantastic industrial accidents, So he's got this wheel spinning, 2 teams. Only one team is actually producing revenue. The other, almost equally sized team is just trying to keep these people producing revenue. We're going to see this repeated over and over again. Now, remember I told you to file away 2 things that he could produce in high volume. Remember what they were?
Spikes and horseshoes.
Spikes and horseshoes. It's very important because around 1861, somebody needs a lot of them. You know who it is?
Armies.
Right. The Union Army. Because it was in Troy, New York. It wasn't in South Carolina, it was in Troy, New York. The Union Army comes to calling, and he gets an almost exclusive contract to supply the horseshoes to the Union Army, and the railroad spikes for the supply line. This guy, Henry Burton, is the Howard Hughes of the Civil War to World War II. You get it? He's in the right place at the right time. He's got the right product. Howard Hughes had airplanes. This guy's got railroad spikes and horseshoes. Bill Gates of his time, because he's got a water wheel and can crank out a ton of horseshoes. So he builds a fortune. He buys out the Troy Iron Works. Pretty interesting, right? So you're saying, where's the cloud computing? Well, there's 2 big changes happen after the war. Around 1889-ish, more or less, Thomas Edison, Nikola Tesla, they try and popularize something new, different way to drive industry. Remember what it is? Electricity. Popularizes electricity. Now all of a sudden, everybody is converting their factories to run on electricity. Because I could put more machines closer together. I don't have all these bands and mechanical connections, I have electrical connections. I could convert my water wheel and hook it up to a dyno and drive electricity onto the floor. That's cool. I can put my plant anywhere because I could make a boiler, I could burn coal, I could burn wood, I could burn whale oil, whatever, and I could make this electricity. If anyone grew up in New York, do you ever hear about when a boiler explodes? What's that like? Right? So now, my factory floor has got more density, more people, more things going on, all these people producing revenue, and guess what else I still have at the same time? A big team that keeps my dynamo going and is constantly fixing the magnets and the wiring and all of the electrical appliances. So I've traded one thing for the other, and I still have this giant team. Big seismic change happens around 1900. What do you think it is?
A new century. Car. Plugs.
Utility company. This is what Edison wanted all along. Edison was a okay inventor. He was a genius at patenting and stealing ideas and patenting them. And no joke. He would see an idea, and I mean, if you look at the electricity, and you look at Nikola Tesla, and you look at him, he was a genius at patenting. He was a genius at marketing. He wanted to invent the light bulb. Say he credited with perfecting the modern light bulb. Do you know why? It wasn't because he was sitting in the dark. He figured if he could get you excited about the light bulb, he could come on behind it and sell you electricity. Oldest utility company in the country is Con. Right. That's why he wanted it. Now all of a sudden, the utility company, this utility model, Thomas Edison, had a different model. If you needed electricity, you could just plug it in. And when you plug it in, all of a sudden, you didn't need your dyno. You didn't need to bring in train loads of coal or wood to burn locally. You didn't have boilers exploding. And what did that do for that giant maintenance team that was keeping all of that running? Shrank. Shrank. Which meant I had the ratio of more people delivering dollars to the bottom line versus just maintenance. The utility model changed it. Because with utility model, I don't have to own the means of production. And how much do I pay for it? How do I pay for it? I pay based on exactly how much I use. If I need more, my bill will be higher. If I use less, I don't pay for it. And I don't care how you make it. I don't care what fuel you use. I don't care how far away it comes. But there's no grid. So we see that it takes time to adopt. Start the utility come out, and then we see this inflection point, and then a second inflection point around 1920. And in 10 years, it's completely flipped from producing your own electricity till the grid catches up and you're on the utility model. The only thing that held it back was not the adoption of the idea of electricity. And it wasn't people's mistrust of the utility, it was the lack of a grid. And as soon as the grid got to you, you adopted it. And if you weren't where the grid was, you might open up a factory where the grid is. And some companies today may locate their business based on where a fiber ring is, because that's the amount of bandwidth they need, right?
That was a geeky term if I ever heard one.
That is a geeky term. Half the room got it.
I didn't.
Okay, we'll talk about it. Okay, it's not that important. So now you're starting to see this utility model. Now, within 50 years of building the country's largest, most powerful water wheel, it sat rusting in a field in Troy, New York. That wouldn't happen where I grew up, my friends, because people would have carried that away and recycled it. Guys with shopping carts would have taken that away within 30 minutes. But it sat rusting in Troy, New York. Now don't feel bad for Henry Burton, because he just kept changing with the times. He hooked it up to a dyno, and when that was done, when he could hook it up to a utility, he saved a ton of money and went to the utility model. Went with the times, forward-thinking guy. Made sense, right? Does everybody follow me on that? Everybody see where we are? This is Howard Halloran. Herman Halloran. he invents a mechanical counting machine. This was used, a punch card based mechanical counting machine. This was used to tabulate the 1890 census. You can imagine what it takes to do a census on paper, just adding up columns of numbers. Of course, today it's like 310 million people. Back then, not so much. 1890 census. And you'll see on a punch card, 100 years later, still voting that way in Miami. Is this not a hanging chad? Is this not a vote-o-matic in the 2000 election? 100 years later, 110 years later? Am I crazy? Mechanical punch tabulates the 1890 census, and because of that, whole industry springs up to help businesses take advantage of this. It's the first IT guys. Mechanical machines. Can you imagine what goes wrong on a big mechanical counting machine? The Chinese had it right 5,000 years. They used an abacus and it never broke. Right? Oh, beads are stuck. You know, that happened, right? In fact, 5,000 years ago, 4,500 years later, they come up with this, and you're like, wow, look what I invented. And you're like, okay, try. Go to San Francisco, guy had that already. All right, so whole industry sprouts up around this. Only a fraction of people are actually producing revenue with the calculations. It's the teams of people keeping this mechanical monster running where all the dollars are going. This is Howard Aiken, and he invents in 1944 a first real electric calculating machine. I didn't say electric, not electronic, because it's still using vacuum tubes. Anybody remember vacuum tubes? Even I remember, I never actually used them. I remember the Eckerd drugs. You used that thing where you could test the vacuum tubes from your TV, and I didn't know what they were. But he predicted in 1944 that the country would need no more than half a dozen of these machines, mostly for scientific and military research. Now, I understand. I don't think he was backward thinking. I think he looked at that technology at the time, and it made sense that you really need only more than half a dozen of them because of the complexity and the failure rate and the amount of people it took to keep this going. There's 3 people looking at it, and there may be 100 people keeping this type of vacuum tube mechanical monster going. Think about that. He predicted only half a dozen. By the way, even a dumb cell phone, forget about a smartphone, but a dumb phone, has an exponentially higher amount of computing power than that computer had. We go to mainframes and mini-frames. I don't want to give anything away, but
It's a good sign.
pioneer in computing. Don't laugh, Marge. You look great there. Anyway, so
Sexy legs.
so we've got mainframes, and now companies, businesses can really start taking advantage of that. Yeah, people adopting that. That's a fairly small computer. We got storage on tapes. It's fine until they get tangled up. It was fine. They're using that. No, you know, at the time, you could store, as opposed to a stack of punch cards, the tape was pretty high. You'd load it up into memory and you could use it. So this is great. Now look at the jump. Color is invented. No, we look at the jump, and we get to a personal computer. Businesses could buy those. You could put them on several desks. Home people, once you got this into people's homes, that's when you see a revolution. And Apple had a revolution where people could write for it. You could write a program in BASIC. You could transmit it. You could give it on a 5 1/4 inch floppy disk. Some people may remember the 8 1/2 inch elephant disk, or cassette tapes. You used to have programs on cassette tapes. And you see, he's got, I don't know, I think that's a blue monitor. Remember, these were green screen terminals. Y'all remember green screen? Remember the big breakthrough on green screen terminals? What was the breakthrough, the big improvement? Orange screen terminals. Remember when someone got an orange, that was supposed to be more ergonomic for you, someone got an orange screen terminal, you were really jealous that you still had a green one. But now we got personal computers. Unbelievable power that you can stick on your desktop. There's only one problem. They ain't talking to each other.
I was going to say, you still had the big room, the computer room.
They got to talk to each other. And so networking starts to take off in the 1960s. Ed, you ever see a room like that? I have. It didn't start that way, but when they keep doing move ads and change and people running around, it gets that way pretty quickly. We've come in behind some of that, and pretty much all you can do is unplug it all and start over again. But Networking starts to take off in the 1990s, in the 1960s. By the 1990s, we've got it running pretty well, because if I can get computers to talk to each other, the productivity goes up exponentially. It's that communicating with each other, and people further away. By the 1990s, we start to get an internet going. Thank you, Al. We get an internet going, and that's a game changer. Now, I'm not prone to read slides to people, but I think this quote is so salient. Eric Schmidt, you may know that name because he went on to help run Google. But in 1993, he was running Sun Microsystems. And he says, when the network becomes as fast as the processor, the computer itself hollows out and gets spread across the network. When the network gets as fast as the processor, the computer itself hollows out, gets spread across the network. Was he right? Not a whole lot of computing power as compared to my desktop down here, but I can take this with me anywhere and do so much because it's up on the cloud. And we'll talk about that. So I think this was extremely prescient in 1993. The problem is in 1993, what kind of network did we have? We had dial-up, and I remember we had, what was before 1200?
96.
96. There was 9600 baud. 9600 baud. We had 1200 baud. Then if you were cool, you got 2400 baud modem. Cost a couple $100. And then after 2400, something amazing came out, ISDN. And that was a huge jump. And then you got DSL, and you could get it in almost any home or business. And now a T1 is like Snooze-a-Rama at 1.5 megabits per second. And that's like small business, entry level. Now we're talking Metro E, 100 meg fiber. Give you 50 for about $100, right? That's Eric Schmidt's vision. When the network gets as fast as the processor, what you're computing on gets transmitted and spread out across the network. Does that make sense? Let's dig in. You're already on the cloud. That's what Eric is talking about. You're already on the cloud. Probably the biggest content repository in the world is YouTube. I think there's about 100 days worth of content is uploaded every day. It's some astronomical sum. Also, the largest search engine in the world is YouTube. More people look for advice and information and how-to on YouTube than Google by itself. Google, of course, is smart enough, they bought YouTube. Facebook. This has allowed people from, I think it was 900 million people last time I saw, about 900 million people, just a billion people from around the world to get together and waste hours of business time. It's incredible. Google, or Yahoo, or Bing, or any of those search engines. I don't tout any of them, but Google allows you in a second to search the entire internet. I could find information in India, or Indiana, or South America, or Africa, in seconds on Google. I got news for you, your computer can't do that. Only the power of the cloud does that because of the amount of high availability, fault-tolerant, shared computing resources. You couldn't put that inside a business. World of Warcraft, millions of people play that game. It's an online game around the world. They pay big bucks every month to play this game for hours, and it doesn't exist on their computers. It exists in the cloud because none of their computers can have the power to do that kind of sharing and networking. We got photo sharing, backup on the cloud, internet radio. Anybody recognize this symbol? Wikipedia. Wikipedia allows millions of people around the world to get together and collaborate and share completely erroneous information. It's incredible! Think about it, we used to have chain letters to do that. And now we can all get together and share Google Mice that way. It's horrible, right? WordPress, blogging, you know what I mean? 90% of the room gets that. So, now let's look at applications, business applications. SAP, NetSuite, Salesforce.com. Huge customer relationship management program that doesn't exist in your office. And when it doesn't exist in your office, where can you access it from? Anywhere and everywhere. LinkedIn, the Facebook of business. Windows Live, whole Microsoft applications existing, I think, somewhere in India. So you're already on the cloud. Where are we in this cloud evolution? Let me give you an example of where we are. From one week to the next. Personal story. I got an air conditioning company, AAA Modern. Here's a shout out to them. One week they came and they installed a new air conditioner in my house. It was a 5-ton unit. It was a substantial investment. Try and live without it, right? So 1 week they come, they install the air conditioner, they're done. I sign a triplicate, right? They say press hard, last copy's yours. Pink copy goes to accounting, yellow copy goes to me, white copy goes with this guy. Got to call it a credit card, something comes back, got to staple a receipt to it, he's hand rubbing. You ever see where they take that carbon and they hand rub with the side of a pen you'll remember that. You remember that. Right? He comes back, something's not working the next week, he comes back, and when he's done, he comes in and he doesn't have that clipboard, that big gray clipboard that's got the papers in it. He comes in with his iPad. And on the outside of the iPad, it doesn't say Garber, it says AAA Modern. And he opens it up. He says, Mr. Garber, here's a photo of where the problem was. It was something on the, it was a fibber gibbet from the compressor thinger evaporating. And I'm like, okay. So, see that was defective from the factory. We apologize. And I've replaced it with this one. Here's the picture of it I took with the camera right on it. And here's the list, and that's a $400 part, but there's no charge sheet because it's covered under warranty. It's a brand new air conditioner. So he pulls out the stylus. Oh wait, I have one from SCG. He pulls out a stylus. Thank you, Jeremy. And I sign it. He says, "Do you want that to go on the credit card on file?" Yes. Would you just check there? Check there. Would you initial that? Thank you so much. Check your inbox. Pull up my phone. The receipt is in my box. That was 1 week to the next week. Do you understand how transformational that was to that business? What's the account receivable look like at that company? That moment. They just billed me. It's done. There is no waiting for this guy to get back to the office, which may take over a day. It could be 2 days before he's back. And turn that pink copy into accounting so they can call me and get a credit card and process it. It's processed. It's done. What does that do for the inventory of that company? Do they know in real time what inventory is on the trucks? Do they know what inventory is in real time in the depot so that when his truck pulls in, there's a guy who's picked a replacement part? Holy cow. Does he have photographic evidence that I signed off on everything he did, CYA? Uh-huh. Did I get a receipt instantly in my inbox, along with the satisfaction survey? How satisfied do you think I was? How satisfied do you think I was? How impressed do you think I was? That's somewhere, up near Zencanthropus man up here. They're walking erect, my friends. That was as good a cloud as you could get. Look what it did for their business. Can you imagine having real-time inventory, real-time accounting, AR, nothing hanging out there? Can you imagine that? It was my air conditioning company, guys. So where is the industry overall? Well, sadly, or the good news is we're actually here. We're somewhere between an amoeba and a chimp, which means this is only going to get a lot better, right? Moore's Law. What is it? The speed will double every 6 months and the price will be half, something like that. You're down here. So what can we do down here for cloud? Well, I'll give you some examples. We can fake it till you make it with good cloud today. So we take a law firm, for example. If you remember, lawyers typically, they go to a deposition, they go into court, and what are they schlepping? They're pulling. They got the $500 Hartman briefcase and the Hickey Freeman suit, and they're schlepping this cart, this luggage cart. It's a sad thing. And on there are boxes of files, evidence, files, depositions, discovery. Go to a deposition. Schlepping a car. Who's schlepping the car? Intern schlepping the car. I got those kids. We take in law firms with the right document management piece, with the right cloud application. Walks into a deposition typically with a laptop. Could be one of those super thin MacBook Airs. He's got a Sprint or Verizon, or AT&T, wireless card. Doesn't matter. He's got Wi-Fi everywhere. There's 3 different Wi-Fi accounts in this room right now that we provide guests. Login is here. 3 different ones in the room. And so now all of a sudden, he or she is walking into that deposition with a laptop, even an iPad, Mac, Windows, doesn't matter because it's living on the cloud. The document management, the practice management software, they got Time Matters, Client Profiles, Time and Billing, one of those. They got their Exchange, that's hosted up in the cloud. So they got their email and their calendaring. And all he's got, something like this. Laptop, same thing. The guy says, law says, I didn't sign that, I don't know. All you have to do is bring up the document management piece in the case and goes, is that your signature? You want to rethink that answer? Perjury's a problem. Walks into court, flips open his laptop. Not schlepping this case file. Think about how fast he could access that information, as opposed to if he had 6 file boxes on a card and had to go, wait a minute, Your Honor, I remember somewhere in here there's that signature. No, bring it right up. Transformational today. I tell people the future is the cloud, and the future is now. Because we're able to do that today. Integrate those line of business communications, email. We do an e-discovery for a client through their email archive. It takes us less than 10 minutes. Before, could have taken weeks going through paper and cost a lot of money. So what's the cloud? What's in it? Everything you can imagine that you have on a local business server. You saw that server in the lobby when you came in? The one with the pick in it? Did you catch that one? Check it on the way out. My daughter and I did that a couple weeks ago. I got a database, training documents, email. I have personal files, presentation, shared files, line of business apps, accounting, payroll. Add all kinds of information about my clients, CRM. Now, what does it mean to put it in the cloud? Traditionally, when we have an application, let's pick QuickBooks, for example. People know QuickBooks or an SQL app. It's got 2 pieces of it. It's called a client-server app. We got the server piece, which is the database. That sits on the server in your office. I'm talking to you like you don't know. The server piece sits on the server in your office. And there's a client piece, a little front-end widget that's sitting on your computer. How far away that server is from this client, you don't care. It doesn't matter in the office. It's 10 feet, it's 100 feet. You don't care, do you? Well, if we put that server piece up in a cloud, up in a secure data bunker, we call it Type 1 Class A data bunker with redundant generators and all that stuff. Now all of a sudden we care. We've got the client piece sitting here and the server piece over there. But in good cloud computing, we pick up the client piece and we stick it on the same server with the server piece, with the database. Now the client server pieces are together, they're happy, they're talking to each other at bus speed, geek speed. And all you have to do is look at it and access and run it remotely. What can you run it over? Smartphone, a tablet, laptop, desktop, you name it, shared computer, hotel business center, a kiosk on a convention center floor. I'm visiting Aunt Sally, I need to borrow her computer for a second, look up something. When I walk away from it, I leave no trace behind. Fully encrypted connection. I have a Nook, one of the original color Nooks from Barnes & Noble. It's an e-reader, first color one. I had full cloud, I could run PowerPoint, which is a pig of an application. I could run PowerPoint remotely on my Nook over Wi-Fi. People couldn't believe it. Did full Exchange email, no problem. That's what we're doing with cloud. Is everybody with me so far? Is everybody filling out their sheet? You forgot the ding, Eric. Sorry. That's okay. You go back. We're not grading. Wow. This is a picture of neons. Let's look at the opposite of cloud. The opposite of cloud is we've got customer premise equipment. That's what people are most familiar with. Pile of big iron, as we call it. Takes up a closet in an office, 10 square feet. What's the problem with that old buy that server model? We have immediate obsolescence and no scalability. I tell you, you bought that computer, you see the next ad from Office Depot, and you're like, ah, hard drive twice as large, ah, twice as much RAM, ah, Labor Day sale. You buy that server, it's the same immediate obsolescence, and I can't grow it. I've been doing this for a long time, and when you buy a server, after a year you decide you're going to grow, I can't grow the server. I can't sprinkle water on it and fertilizer and have it grow more processes or anything else. Big CapEx. Buy the server, buy the Microsoft software, buy the deployment. Typically, the deployment and transition labor costs about the same as a server, depending on the platform. And then lather, rinse, repeat, do it again. Every couple of years. What do you think the lifespan of a server is supposed to be?
3 years.
3 years. Why do you know that?
I think you told me that.
Ah! I'm so glad I made an impact on her. She remembered. Cried. It's so sweet. You remembered. Microsoft merry-go-round. You know what that is, folks? You know what the Microsoft merry-go-round is? Buy that Microsoft Office for $350. 22 months later, new release. You ain't compatible. Data's locked in the office. How do I get to it? Do I got to go to the office? I don't want to go to the office. It's Saturday. I just want to look something up. I'm in traveling. I just want to look something up. Hey, Bernie, call Angel. Angel, you're in the office. Look it up. Hey, Donna, look it up for me. Ah, because the data's locked in the office. Continuity. Apparently I found out this morning that there's a hurricane or something that looks like it might be a hurricane heading our way. Continuity. It's only as good as your building, right? Everybody, hold up your hand. Tune your radio station. WIFM. You know what that stands for? What's in it for me? We move it to the cloud, and we've got business continuity. Because remember, it's on someone else's server. We call high availability, fault tolerant servers. That's geek speak. What it means is half of all of that could die and not lose a connection to you or lose your data. We got scalability. Just like when those factories plugged into Con Edison. What a Con Edison. They got everything. He named it that, not me. You got as much as you need. I add people, now I can scale. How much does it cost? I don't know, a couple $100 a person, whatever it costs, I don't know. I hope they're producing more revenue than whatever it costs to put them on the cloud. There is no more obsolescence. We're not painting ourselves into a corner anymore. Now, ding, 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 this is one of the questions I think. We got remote access from any device, anywhere, anytime. Now, if we have remote access, we get something called increased productivity, upwards of 33%. How do I say that? Now, ordinarily, this is a part of the presentation where I'd say a Harvard study has proven, but in fact, it was a Gartner study that proved that employees empowered with remote access have a 33% boost in productivity. Why is that possible? Because they work where they need to, when they need to, or when they want to. Person's got a sick kid, not home from school. Where are they? Well, would you like them to bring the sick kid to the office, or would you rather them stay home? And if they stayed home with that kid, would you rather that they work or not work? I got remote access, kids out of the office, they're home working. People go out on maternity leave after 6 weeks or so, she needs the money, Lord knows you need what's in her head, remote access. Guy's on the gym, he's on the treadmill at night, he's doing email. After hours for free, thank you very much. 33% boost of productivity. 100% peace of mind. That's huge. That's huge. That's the one thing that people will report over and over again that I've talked to who have done cloud computing, whether it was me or someone else. It's like, I just don't think about it anymore. It doesn't take up room in my mind. I don't worry about a hurricane. I don't worry about power outage. I don't worry about any of that. I just don't deal with it, and I don't keep buying it and worrying about it. When we do cloud right, our motto is work is something you do, not a place you go. Ding, ding, ding. All right. Make dollars and cents. Get off the hamster wheel. Buy. Obsolete. Buy. There is one technology cycle that is worse than buy, obsolete, buy. Do you know what it is? It's buy, obsolete.
Don't stop.
Cricket, cricket, cricket. That's the worst. The worst is if you buy it and you let it go 5, 6 years, you are so behind. Your operating system is not compatible with the newest version of stuff, so you're on older software. As people are trying EDI stuff to manufacture, and they can't do it. We can't exchange data, and I got to convert your files, and pop, pop, pop. And they sit there with that. And I got news for it. You know, if you had a Mercedes, a 1967 Gullwing Mercedes, you think it's worth more or less than in 1967? More. A lot more. It's like $1 million. If you have a computer from 10 years ago, do you think it's worth more or less than today? My friends, it ain't a Rolex. It's just a tool. It's tires on your car. They wear out, throw them out, and get new ones. I had a guy who said, no, I don't want to go to the cloud. I don't want to think about that. I'm going to buy another server, John, and we'll just trade it out. We'll take your advice and we'll buy it out. We'll buy a new one in 3 years, like you said. I said, Jeff, I believe you. I said, I believe you, Jeff. I tell you what, price of servers is pretty much flat year to year. It's going to be about the same 3 years from now. I'm willing to do this if you're willing to write a check post-dated for 37 months from now for the new one. He's moving to the cloud. Wasn't willing to do it. Pay as you use, brilliant model. Keep the money in your pocket till you need it. We get an OPEX over a CAPEX. Where's my financial guys? What's the beauty of an OPEX over a CAPEX?
It's tax deductible.
That's my financial guys. Get the guys in front of you. I get 100% tax deduction basis every month for an OPEX. CAPEX, I pay and I can depreciate 15 cents on the dollar for 3 years if I'm lucky. And what's it worth on a lease after 3 years? $1, right? Because technology 3 years old is worth $1. It's a dollar buyout.
But you haven't served your customer either.
You haven't served the customer either. Regain real estate. Got a lower electric bill. It's a green technology. It's the carpooling of business, I call it. We got increased security and we got a lot of peace of mind. Got a lot of continuity. Growth without boundaries, a future without fear. Not one of those. What does it mean for IT? What does it mean for me? I now have broken the cycle. The utility model that we talked about from the 1800s. I told you, I'd take it from the whole, the entire donut. That utility model, when we lay it on computing, means that I don't need that giant on-site infrastructure because I don't have the computers there. I don't have the server infrastructure there. I don't have to be there to maintain it. Where will my employees be? My employees don't have to be gathered in one building either, right? IT is going to be managing the interoption and helping the end user instead of just chasing around the server technology, fighting for budgets to keep it up to date and turn. Security is a little bit different. It's a little bit complicated because now the data is off-premise. Is everybody with me so far? We're going to get to the most fun part of the presentation in a second. What do you want to look for in a cloud solution? Experience, experience, experience. Just like we tell people, we don't believe in being an early adopter of a new Microsoft product. I don't want to be the guinea pig on a guy's first cloud solution. It's a big transition, and it's somewhat of a painful transition. Look for somebody who's done it many times and has a track record. Look for someone who's not just a niche player, unless they're just software as a service. One particular application, like a routing system or something, that's what they're providing. That's okay. But if they're going to provide an entire integrated cloud solution for you, look for a generalist, not a specialist. We want all the Microsoft licensing per person on demand. That's the mark of a great cloud solution. The guy's got the contracts with Microsoft. We want to support all the devices, from Android to iPhone to a thin client, we call the dumb terminals again, smartphones. It's got to support all. If it doesn't support that, there's something wrong with the architecture, because the state of the art does that. This is important. Local expertise, support, and that's something that goes all the way down to the user. And here's why, in my experience. Once you've got stuff running up on a cloud server, it runs fine. It runs great. It's the people that need the support. It's the people that need help. It's the people that change their devices, drop their devices, forget how to do something, don't have. Computer's running fine. Server's running fine. It's the people that need help. Make sure you've got someone who's going to support this. You know, there's an old joke I say to people, we're 100% located in Hollywood, not Bollywood. And not to pick on the world's largest democracy, but if you want, in case you didn't know, we're not the world's largest democracy, India is. If you want support now, you don't want to file a ticket online and hope that 24 hours later you get back to it. Let's talk about a day in the life. You know what a day in life looks like without the cloud. With the cloud, I don't have to come to the office to go to my first meeting. I could prep at home. I could print paperwork. I could do whatever I need. I could check my email, communicate with the guy, go straight to that first meeting. Go straight to the client. That's where the money is. The money's on the street. If you could make just one more call a day, what if I could make one more visit a day? 5 days a week. You think I'd have more revenue? I could enter in the live order data right at the client side on it. iPad, any tablet. I'm working in the office, I'm on a PC, we want to go in the conference room. I can take my personal laptop with me, continue working while instead of falling asleep during the meeting, bring your own device. It's all the millennials want to do that. Millennials coming into the workforce, by the way, those are employees that are born, I'm choking on it, 1994 on. They expect to bring their own equipment because their equipment is typically better than yours. Go on vacation, stay in touch. They're on vacation, they're still working for you. Remember that 33% boost to productivity? Everybody with me so far? Yeah? Who's the cloud for? Easily, when I see any of these, I know there's a flag. Multiple locations, multiple mobile workers. They've had some downtime pain from Hurricane Wilma or some other construction in the area. They got legal compliance issues. HIPAA, FINRA, Graham-Lee-Bliley, Sarbanes-Oxley. Fastest way to meet compliance on the data site, get it out of their office, put it in the cloud. Always. Major equipment turnover. So that guy who's got the server equipment that's more than 3 years old, maybe it's 4 or 5 years old, they got to invest money. They can invest in the technology from 20 years ago, or they can invest in the technology of tomorrow, or which is today. By the way, when I say mobile workers, that could be a work at home, that could be a remote worker, that could be, I got my controller moved to North Carolina, retired, still doing my books. I'm hiring somebody to help me make calls out of Panama or whatever. Anyone, someone on maternity leave, sick, taking care of a parent, that's a huge issue we have now. I got to go to New York and take care of my father. He's got cancer or something, you know, it's terrible. He can't give up his income. We can't give up what's in his head. He's a mobile worker, right? So think about that as a broad definition. Everybody with me on that? Does that make sense? Is it right for you? I don't know. Is there a cloud assessment request here? That's a test. Well, yes, there is. If you or you know somebody, you think the cloud may be right for them, you can request a cloud readiness assessment. I will do it. This is not a sales pitch. It's just letting you know that it is available if you are more curious. This is my favorite part. This is where I hear from you what's on your mind. Does anybody have any questions or concerns about cloud? Angel.
So, I have a client. They use multiple systems within the same office.
Yeah.
Are they a candidate for your business?
Probably. Because what happens is when they could move one application to a cloud provider that provides that application. Let's say QuickBooks. You say, I can put QuickBooks with QuickBooks Online. But now all of a sudden it works, but it's not integrated. It's not talking to their exchange. I'm not able to merge a document with Word and send out a letter to them all. I end up with these separating stuff into silos of information. That's the drawback of the SaaS model, software as a service. Each application runs great, but now all of a sudden the integration is a problem. What we're able to do with cloud today, we have providers like me, is just like I explained with the lawyer. I took his line of business, Client Matters, Client Profiles. I took Exchange. I took Office, so all the integration, the merging, and his accounting program. I put them all together in the same place, totally integrated, and he only goes to one interface to access it. When I start building these SaaS silos, I know that my accounting's over here, and my payroll's over here, and my Word is over here, and when I'm out of the office, how do I get to any of them? Because they're not integrated. Good cloud solution, put it all together in one integrated place. That's a great question. What?
The bit here about the independent financial services, how you help them, and how about the compliance needs with regards to FINRA. Our company is very old school to the extent that we use Lotus Notes. We don't even use, I mean that's because nobody else uses them. That's their idea because they can't get hacked or get into it.
It's also to keep employees from jumping to another company because their skills are back with Lotus Notes from 30 years ago.
Perhaps, but they don't like the idea of remote using smartphones. That in fact, if you get one, you've got to buy a MetLife smartphone that costs hundreds of dollars, and you would give them it back with everything on it. So most people don't.
Security.
So for a company like that, how would you present to them and say it's this is viable, this is what you'd be doing, this is actually going to be better?
That's a great question. The question isn't whether the cloud is viable, because lots of competitors to MetLife are using it.
Yeah, it's a question of why
The question is the mentality of the people that don't want to look forward. And sometimes all you can do is wait for them to retire. Sometimes, I'm not kidding, sometimes I can present what all of your competitors are doing. I can talk about productivity. I can talk about it, and they could still have a security bugaboo, and I can talk about security, and I can talk about, close your ears, 256-bit AES military-grade encryption, and I can talk about 128-bit encryption, and I can talk about data silo, and I'm sure the IT setup in MetLife is great, you know, or your division, your local office. But if the mentality is not the Henry Burton mentality, which is, if it's going to add value to my business, I will measure it and I will implement it as needed. If the mentality is not that Henry Burton mentality, but status quo is good while the world passes me by, I can't necessarily change it. I can only present, you know, what other people are doing, how we're doing it, and I can answer. Somebody says security, I talk about security. Someone says, what happens if the internet goes out? We talk about that. It's pretty easy. It's not hard to get internet. Not hard to get a redundant connection to the internet. I can tether my phone to a laptop today, and I have internet. I mean, it's everywhere. A gas station says free Wi-Fi in my neighborhood. It does. Mobile state, why do you need free Wi-Fi while you're pulling into free Wi-Fi? If you can't find Wi-Fi, you ain't looking. Not in this market. So it's a great question, and I hope I answered it. I could sit down in detail with these guys and go, well, here's what you could get. You got to grab the brass ring. You got to let go of something to grab the brass ring. You got to stand up in the stirrups and grab it. If you want to stay seated, you can't grab it.
Right.
It's that simple. Like I said, the future is cloud. I got news for you. What do you think sells more today? Smartphones and tablets or desktop PCs? What do you think is selling more?
Dell is worried.
Well, Dell makes an Android tablet. They saw it, and they said, I'm going to sell it. There are more of these being sold exponentially than desktop computers because people are spending less time at a desktop. It's a very tough economy in a competitive market. Where is the business? Is the business in your office waiting for someone to call you? Or is the business out on the street where the clients are? My friends, it's out there. It's out meeting with people, and that means you have to have mobility. If you got mobility, you have to have remote access. You have to have remote access, you have to have security. If I've got remote access and security, I have to have continuity. When I put up all those things together, there's only one thing, and that's cloud. Are there any other questions?
Jonathan, I think you hit a very good point.
Thank goodness.
Well, no, seriously, I mean, I run into a lot of very scary situations where people will actually buy 3 servers because in case one goes down, 2 will
Sure.
3 will go. And
Sure.
they don't want to get rid of the guy that's been doing the job for 40 years because he knows it all and nobody ever can write it down.
Right, no documentation, legacy system, it's all wrapped up in one guy's head. What happens if he gets hit by a bus?
But the biggest fear for them.
I've heard it.
We all heard that. That they're afraid to go in the cloud because they think the cloud's going to like disappear and take all of their information.
Yes. Now that I like that thinking that looks at the cloud. When we say cloud, we're talking about the internet. So when you say, you know what my biggest fear is? That the whole internet fad is going to blow over.
They're swearing, but they can see the server. You see what I'm saying?
They should have
They should have a MetLife account. So,
Wow.
You know, Jonathan, I think it's less.
Most people do.
Jonathan, I think it's less that they think that the cloud's going to go away. I think it's, gee, my dad is out there. I'm afraid that Joe over there is going to get to it, or Sally can access
Okay.
it. What are my real concerns?
security. Now, security and survivability of your provider are 2 different things.
Correct.
So, who you are working with, who's providing the cloud, is one issue. That's survivability. That's what happens if that company goes out of business. I get asked that. Everybody who wants to go on our cloud says, what happens if you go out of business? So how long have you been in business? Guy says 7 years. We've been in business 36 years. I'm worried you're going to go out of business and not pay my bill. So, they go out of business. We have all that built into a contract. If the guy doesn't have it built into a contract of how you get your data and transfer your data in the event that we were to go out of business, don't use that provider. The question you're asking, though, is what about if I take it out of my office and put it in the cloud, is it more or less secure? What's the security like in your office today? What's the security like in your office today? I walk into offices all the time and I say, where's the firewall? And they point to the modem, the router from the internet provider. I go, that's the exact opposite of a firewall. Right? If you're a little bit technical, you know that's the opposite of a firewall. So they have no firewall. Who monitors and manages the security? Nobody. Who does the backup in real time also? Nobody. What's your security policy? Nothing. They come to the cloud, I got a documented security policy, I have a military-grade enterprise-class firewall with 256-bit AES military encryption over a VPN tunnel. I have proactive, real-time managed antivirus gateway, anti-malware, and intrusion prevention. So if you went from your office to that, did you step up security or drop in security? That's how I explain it. It's an exponential increase for almost every single company that I've walked into. Every single one. They tell me that they're concerned about security, but have none today. Whatever I do, I'm exponentially increasing the security, even if I do it on site for them. So that's the answer. They should be concerned about security. They should be concerned about security in the cloud. But they're not showing me that they're concerned about security today. I'm going to, look, I promise I was going to wrap it up 10. We are 5 after. I have all day. I work here. I will not hold anybody for 1 second more. We are going to conduct an optional tour if anybody wants to. If anyone has a question, maybe someone else has it, shout it out now. Question? I either did a great job.
How long would the tour take?
Pardon?
How long would the tour take?
10 minutes.
Okay.
What would a file server and a cloud look like as far as the user interface? Right now, one of our largest resources on our server is just the files we have, not necessarily the servers. Our databases are already in the cloud. But what would the file server look like as far as the speed difference between the local server and the cloud?
Typically, when we're using thin client computing, the speed is the same or increased. The difference is in the variety of access. So you should not have a drop in performance. It would either stay the same, depending on your file structure, or get better. The big advantage you would have is the variety of access methods and devices, whether it's a phone or a tablet, where you can access it from. That would be the advantage there. I'm going to stop questions here. I will be here, but I am going to ask you to do one thing for me before you leave. Would you help me help you? I've got an eval form here. You can sign it or not sign it. It's okay. You can rank the front really quick. That's great. Help me be better at this. That's why I take it. That's why I hold these. That's why I invite friends who will give me honest advice. And on the back, I want you to do 3 things. If you look on the back,
Anybody need a pen?
it says either C. Bob or Jeff Robbins for a pen. It says start, stop, and continue. If you do nothing else, will you share with me something I should start, something I should stop? I'll take it. I come from theater, I'll take the criticism. And something I should continue. What am I doing wrong? What am I doing right? What am I not doing at all? If you would share that with me, I would consider that extremely valuable feedback. And finally, there's a cloud readiness assessment request. You can use that for your own business. It's 100% free because you shared this time with me. If you have a friend, a colleague, a client, and you think this would make sense for them, or you think I could talk some sense into them, that's okay. Fill it out for them with their consent. Give it back to me. You can email it to me. You can fax it to me. You all know how to reach me. And if you would do that for me, I would greatly appreciate it.
Jonathan,
Sir.
you say thin client, what do you mean by that?
A thin client means, that's great, I'm going to get a little geeky for John because he asked it. There's 2 ways of doing the remote computing. Thin client and VPN. VPN means I need a very fat internet connection. The client piece stays in my office. The server piece goes off-site or in the cloud. And so I need almost LAN-like speed. A LAN today is 100 meg to a gig. I need all of that speed to run this effectively. Now, a SQL app will never run on a VPN. It doesn't work. Then client says I move the client and the server together in the cloud, and I'm only remotely viewing and accessing it. Right. So that's like we used to do with mainframes. That's what we do with Citrix, if you've seen Citrix. That's what you're doing when you use, let's say, Facebook. The client piece, what you see, and the database are together in the cloud. And you're accessing it all through a web-like interface. The web is thin. Until I download a big file, the web is thin client computing. Everything happens, the searches, the storage, the computing is happening over there. And I'm just seeing it remote. That's thin client computing. And that's what allows me to use any device. A dumb thin client terminal on a desktop, an iPad, an Android. That's the difference. Is that clear?
Yeah,
Because that's a great question.
So if I have an outdated program that I use in the office,
Yeah.
a SQL
Okay.
database, but I want to move to a cloud
Okay.
for everything.
Great.
For but you're saying the SQL database, you can't do that with.
No, I could move it, but the key is that I put the SQL client together with the SQL server together in the cloud.
Oh, you can do that.
You
Okay.
can't separate the two and say I'm going to run it here, the workstation side at my
You
workstation,
can't put it all in.
and the server side up on the server. I can't do that because SQL makes too
I
many
don't
internal
use that
calls.
program too much longer, but I do need it
Yeah,
for
but we could pick-
backup. I need it
Possibly pick
for-
the whole thing up, or you back it up locally until you're ready to transition off of it. Glenn, thank you so much.
Fantastic, thank you.
Thank you, cheers, thank you so much for coming, I appreciate it.
Nice to meet you.